Okay, guys, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the toughest, session in a conference like this. It's called the half an hour after lunch session. This is where all the yawns start to come. So, when I'll give you an anecdote. When I go to my son's school, the teachers there really know how to do this. So they will say, okay, get up and stretch around. I'm sure we've all gone through that. Maybe we should all do that too, right? No, but I'm not going to make you do that. But what I do promise is that this is going to be an electric conversation. If you think about it, 2024 was the year of the chatbots. Last year was the year of agentic hype. But 2026 is widely expected to be the year that AI goes mainstream. It's going. We have moved from what if to how much, with boards asking measurable ROI. But the question a lot of us still ask is, how do you go from a collection of cool tools, and take it into and convert it into a unified industry playbook? And we have the leaders who actually living and breathing and defining AI native platforms. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your time. Achin, actually Vivek, let me start with you. I mean, education is something that we all have an interest in, right? But the way I would like to do today's conversation is that let's circle back, let's rewind a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the early use cases you saw, when the whole AI hype came, the early use cases you saw that you thought were interesting and you worked upon.
Okay, thanks Tarun, and thanks to the organizers for having us. You rightly said, education, everybody's interested in education, right? Though I am probably the sole representative of the ed tech sector here, but all of us have some sort of interest in education, primarily because our kids or grandkids in some cases, and they are all going through the education process. And education also serves as a talent pipeline for all your organizations, right? So it's very important as to how education is doing. I think your question pertained to what were the early use cases when it comes to AI in education, right? AI has been, I mean, all of us are aware that AI has been around for about 7 or 8 decades as a technology. And in the US and the developed markets, even in education, AI has been around for, about 5 or 6 decades now. In India, let me restrict my thoughts to mainly the Indian education market. Education usually is a laggard when it comes to adopting technology compared to the rest of the industry. In India, more so. In India, it all started very late, but it started with baby steps of, how do we digitize stuff? How do we put content on screen? Once we started doing that, we started accumulating data, which helped us do some analytics, but this is post-facto analytics. So how has the student done? How did the class, do, and so on and so forth. That gradually moved to, as the predictive models evolved, it moved to predictive analytics. Who is at risk? How will my class do, and so on and so forth. From there, it went to slightly rules-based automation, which still is not AI, but it was gradually but surely moving in the direction of AI. Rules-based automation is, okay, you have these fixed algorithms, which are not intelligent, but they apply the rules well enough, and some sort of personalization and profiling used to happen. But now we are sitting squarely and surely in the meaty curve of AI, right, where it's a living and breathing intelligent system which acts on its own, which surfaces up relevant content to the relevant learner at the relevant time in the relevant medium that the learner wants, so that engagement is very high and academic outcomes are achieved. So we are definitely going in the right direction. I just worry that we are not going at the right speed.
Yeah. Interesting. The early use cases, in education clearly took that thing. But Abhishek, to you, the generative capability of AI was one of the first that took off, especially in the creative field. You spent a lot of time in AR, VR. Now you're building the HomeLane, business. How did you sort of start using the technology in your organization?
Okay. Thank you, first of all, for having me here, and good afternoon, everyone. I'll talk about 2 parts, which were the very early set of intervention from the HomeLane side into using some advanced form of technology. I would not call it AI only, it's AI plus heuristics, as my dear friend said. So one of the first realization that we had in the industry was to identify the air gap between design and manufacturing. I'm sure majority of us here would have gotten some opportunity in last couple of years to get our dream home interiors done. So one of the gaps that were identified was, you'd go to an interior designer, you'd go to a company, and then they'll start designing something for you. So once there's something that's designed, the next step is to manufacture, where you start the ballpark game all over again. What you have seen during the design process versus when it goes to manufacturing, the same amount of gap basically starts persisting. So we call this the air gap. We started identifying if there is a way that we can bridge this gap, which means when you are designing something, can you transform the same design into an outcome that can be manufactured in factory? So HomeLane, even before this Gen AI era, in 2020, 2021, was one of the first company in the country that came up with a platform, we call it Spacecraft, which was our homegrown design to manufacturing platform, which means pretty much any customer who comes to meet us for the very first time will take whatever amount of time to design a product. You'd be able to instantly see the pricing of it, and then once a customer likes, in one click, this can pretty much go to factory for all the boards, pressing, material, etc. That's one part. There is one more use case that we want to kind of, work on when we started this, AI wave, which is about the visualization problem. So if you see 10 years ago, when you would have gone for interior design process, you were okay that a designer was actually putting across boxes over a box, designing something in a product like SketchUp, AutoCAD, and a customer is not getting anything out of it, right? And then you're just waiting for 1 or 2, 3, 4 days for designer to design and then share a render to you. So that rendering process pretty much took 3 hours of time per frame. We wanted to challenge this because we understood modern customers are, for the lack of a better word, impatient. When you order something on Zepto, Blinkit, Amazon, you don't want to really wait for something to actually show up. So one of the first AI leverage problem truly that we solved was actually rendering. So as of 2023-24, when a customer comes to us, when we design something, it takes us less than 3 minutes to give you the same render, which was taking hours erstwhile. So these were one of the very first use cases that we cracked using AI.
So initially it was really about increasing efficiencies and outputs, right? Achin, to you, let's change the conversation a little bit. A lot of these early pilots which seem to be successful, but never really, a lot of them kind of died in the lab, right? Let's just identify 2 or 3 main reasons at least you saw back then, which were actually, instrumental in making them, and which kind of held these pilots back from full-scale deployment.
So first of all, thanks for having me. I think, this topic is very pertinent because we need to understand, all of us know it, and, Vivek also touched upon it, the different flavors of AI. So I always say that there was traditional or conventional AI, which is what I think he referred about. So AI is not new. I think it's been there for a while. It's just that the word AI has got coined and which is gaining traction. Then came the generative AI, which is largely in use by our kids at home, and almost everybody is consuming it. The third one, which is agentic AI, which is what I think would impact the industry most. So that's why I think, I'm just reiterating that this topic of converting these individual use cases to playbook is very important. Now to come back to your question, Tarun, I think most of these pilots, were successful, yet have not been translated to the larger organization-wide playbook or impact. Because, any use case that you pick or any pilot that you pick in any organization is successful if it works once and then seamlessly replicated across the organization or multiple functions. So I think in my view, these pilots have, been conducted in isolation without aligning the, the downstream applications or the processes. When you talk about AI, and I'm, in the previous session, we talked about this, the ethics committee and so on and so forth. it's very important to look at it as a holistic, with a holistic view. Because AI, if I just bring a technology piece into any industry or enterprise, it might be a flash in the pan, but it will not give you the impact that you would see as part of, any transformation initiative that we have looked at in the past. So I think, just to cut the long story short, because these pilots have not been embedded in the larger workflow or the operations, that's why they have not made that impact. Because once you make them a part of the larger workflow, the operations largely, they're not going to give you that kind of ROI or the business KPIs. So.
Dr. Meher, to you, I mean, I'd like your perspective on the same thing, and also let's add to it to say a successful pilot. What would a successful pilot look like? I mean, what are the two most important criteria you would look at and say, okay, this pilot actually seems to work. It seems to be something I want to deploy. Organization wide.
Yeah, I belong to a healthcare organization. AIIMS is an institute for the healthcare research and teaching. Last 25 years I am teaching AI to my postgraduate students. So we have a long experience in this regards. The real things what you must be observed, why last 5 to 6 years there is no chikungunya or dengue. Why? Because of AI. They predict that, because the cycle was, you might have seen in the past, that every 4 years you have a dengue epidemic. Right now, no epidemic in NCR because of these things. The agency plots, the institution, the preventive care people, they have worked for it and they achieved it. What you are talking about, two things. Any AI, it may be across the domains. Many agencies they have forecast, already informed, 95% of the AI projects they failed at the time of POC. Recently, one organization, they have also published that 85% healthcare AI projects they failed at the time of POC. Why? Are our data is ready? Everybody they say yes. But what exercise you have done that your data is ready, you can say. Data ready means your data is digital forms, it is not ready. You have to see how your data is standardized. Uniformly it is standardized. Second part is that how the data is complete. One example I am giving to you. Last year, one PhD student from IIT Delhi has come to me. He was doing the project. And he has developed an excellent model. Random forest, the backgrounds, he has customized that one. Under me, he has done it. The disease forecasting of a particular disease, it is more than 87%. After completing everything, thesis is prepared, our publication has been done. I have asked one thing before going this. One parameter edit. And simple, I have given extra parameter on the AI model, that is temperature of the patient. And again we have tested. It has come down to 37%. How dangerous you see it. That's why with the data is the most important. And that student has confused, sir, my thesis will not go through it because what is happening? He has taken 3 days, unable to find it out. The only thing that is simple things it has there, 32% of the data is centigrade and the rest of the data is Fahrenheit. That's all. So when you are using any models, be careful on your data. I will tell. Thank you.
That's a very interesting one. Actually, data. Back to you, Vivek. When you try and successfully deploy a pilot, I mean, what do you think is the failing point? Is it the data? It's systems governance, or is the plumbing behind the use case? What do you think is the biggest failure point in your experience?
The biggest failure point, I would say, is not with respect to technology as such at all. Especially in my domain, which is education, the biggest failure point, and I hope there are no teachers in the room, it's usually the faculty, which is the biggest resistor of any kind of change, especially with technology, because there is a fear of, they don't know what they don't know. And there is an innate fear when it comes to especially AI, that it's going to replace them, which it is not. When thoughtfully applied, AI is more of a scaffolding than, say, a substitute. So there is an inordinate level of emphasis placed on technology. Is it software? Is it hardware? I think it'll serve us better if we look at what problems are we trying to solve. The technology usually takes care of itself. So it's usually the people and the process, not so much the technology in my view.
Achin, you want to weigh into that?
Yeah, I think Dr. Sushil, made a very valid point that data, all this while we've been hearing data is the new oil, and for the last few years, definitely it's the fuel for AI. We can't deny this. But as far as the POC is concerned, and POC is also linked to the larger impact, data is one of the critical components. But from the enterprise perspective, what we need to look at is that AI is not an IT project. So typically, if you consider it as an IT project, then there are very feeble chances that it might succeed. It will require collaboration from all the functions. And as we used to say in the digital transformation when it got peaked right after the COVID, that there are three pillars to it, people, process and technology. So I think the same fundamental applies to AI as well. If you have to make that impact in the organization, it is essential that you align all these three pillars together. And then of course, data, use cases, identifying the right use cases, and then ensuring that there is a scalability factor also into that. One of the reason, again, I'm going back to the agentic AI because the topic is for the industry. One of the use case that has gained maximum traction, and I'm happy to be challenged on this, as far as the agentic AI is concerned, is the customer service. Because, there is a very clear-cut use case which has been proven, and there are enough and more players to support that, for the organization. So, again, to answer your question, yes, it will require a collaborative approach within the organization. While the board wants it, the CEO wants it, everybody wants AI, but, unless you address it or take it up at a holistic level, it will not succeed.
Actually, that brings me to a very interesting point in the conversation that I wanted to get to. Abhishek, let me direct this to you. So now, you've run a successful pilot, you've figured out it works for the organization, for the particular use case. But, measuring ROI for AI is tough. It's never linear. It's very non-linear, right? Now, you're at a point where you're now supposed to have a conversation with the CFO and the CEO. And how do you then, in a non-linear, or an ROI which tends to be non-linear, how do you go and convince? What do you do?
This is, by the way, this is the favorite part of this conversation for me personally. That's where my board hits actually. I'll give an interesting perspective. We all know that there are different organizations in their part of the journey where they started using AI/Gen AI and some of the other functions. We discussed about customer service. There are plenty of examples. Like one of the first set of teams which got disrupted in pretty much any company was marketing. It was a function. People started writing copies, generating images, etc., right? So everyone kind of find a lot of efficiency. So one way to look about, is to figure out, say, input metric. Hey, I was taking 5 hours to generate one copy with 2 humans, and with Gen AI or ChatGPT, Gemini, Cloud, whatever works for you, I'm able to do this in like 3 hours timeline, right? That's an input metric for me. That's a marginal utility. Now, I flip the question. If you really want to assess the impact of AI, you'd have to also think disruptive. I'll give you an example. I'll give you a framework. I follow Peter Thiel, Sam Altman's thesis, which is about the world would be having more one-person company. So my favorite interview question to a leader that I'm hiring today is, if you were to build HomeLane as a 3-person company, how would you reimagine this entire thing with a perspective of AI? You have a tech co-founder, you have a marketing co-founder, you have an ops co-founder, right? Because when you start once again thinking individual tools operating at specific functions, you're not truly leveraging the power of AI. When you have to think about the impact, you'd have to think about how all of these tools, processes are orchestrated in a way that you are able to truly disruptively think in organization, right? That's where the question comes from me to our board or maybe to the folks around in the leadership, saying that if you were taking say 45 days to deliver a home to customer plus 15-20 days to design, what makes us, with all the AI of the world to be in play, what makes us to do this in about 20 days, right? If I am able to do that, that's where I would have earned a right to really call out I've generated impact. If I was investing X amount of money with Y set of humans, if I'm able to halve this or maybe quadruple whatever efficiency standpoint, then I have a right to actually claim I've really made an impact using it. That's by the way my framework.
Interesting. Can I take this to Dr. Meher? I mean, healthcare is a very different business, and thankfully AIIMS is not a business. Thank God for that. Measuring ROI from a clinical outcome perspective is really tough task. So how would you take this conversation with whoever is taking the financial decision to take a use case and scale it up?
You have rightly spoken to me. We do not consider ROI, but we are very strict to the KPI. That's why we have decided these are the places we have to use the AI to improve our KPI. The best thing what I'll tell, this is you can say, one of the best product which has been developed by the AIIMS and Indian Institute of Science. Early detection of the breast cancer and ovarian cancer. The project is ioncology.ai. It has been awarded Digital India Missions, Government of India. What is that? We have observed that 29% of the breast cancer has increased in the urban area and 18% in the rural area within 5 years. It means that this 24% may be increased up to 29, 30, 32% in coming years. So how to stop this one? The best thing is that early detection. If we do the early detection in stage 1, then it can be cured up to 98% of the patients. This is the success rate. That's why we have developed a thermal scanning bra. Because any breast has to be scanned, it has to be through mammography. And mammography is hardly find any good hospitals. If you find in Delhi 3 to 4 hospitals, if you talk about Gurgaon 2 to 3 hospitals, and if you talk about the Noida, and again 2 or 3 hospitals. But you cannot do preventive care. You need some things which is been accessible. That's why the bra has developed it. And what it is that the Anganwadi and Asa worker, they are going to the villages, they take the patient profile, they are not patient, citizen profile, those who are more than 45 years old. Okay, they take the name, age, sex, already they have registered, rest of the things, what is the menstruation cycle, what is the symptom in the breast, everything they take it. And the lightweighted AI tool scan it, it process it, and if it will indicate that the lady has to be wear the thermal scanning bra, then that ASA worker, who is a lady, he'll ask to the lady that please wear this one because there is some indication is there. Then that lady will go inside and wear the bra and come back, and back side of the bra there is a cable is there that will be connected to the smartphone, and again you will scan it. From the scanning of that thermal scanning image plus our clinical informations, it will process by AI tools and it can predict that whether he has to go for a high treatment for oncology or not. And it is 87%. This is the Indian made and that is affordable. Right now 16 lakhs from Punjab, Haryana, UP, Bihar, Odisha, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, it has been done. And the thermal scanning bra is very affordable, 3 to 4,000, and it is in the production stage, and it is under Government of India. So these are things which is been AI can do it. That is the one thing where we have to understand that where the not reachable to the doctors and the AI is doing it, why not you will use that one?
Very
Yes,
interesting.
thank
So,
you.
clinical outcome, improvement, clinical outcome, predictive diagnosis and affordability. Let's now sort of move towards saying, okay, now what does this playbook for in 2026 look like, Achin? When you think about a playbook, right? How much autonomy are you truly comfortable with giving to an AI system? And where do you draw the line of saying this is where human in the loop is necessary? Now let's talk about the playbook.
Yeah.
More
So I think, in my view, we should restrict the full AI autonomy, at least for the next few years till the time it stabilizes. While we have been talking about the positive side of it, the AI hallucination and those, phenomena are real, and we have, enough and more examples to, supplement that part. So net, it should be a restricted autonomy with, identifying the processes or the areas which are not directly customer impacting, where the decisions are reversible. So, you deploy the AI, but, make sure that you have the processes which are not directly impacting. Even if it is, then, you must have a human in the loop. So while AI helps us, with the faster processing, faster decision making, but as far as the ultimate decision goes, it should be, especially if there are, financials involved, there should be a human in the loop for some moderation and, those kind of things. I'm not sure if all of you are aware, but reinforcement learning, and I was reading somewhere that, because of biases in the data and because of, the quality of data, these big giants have paid some $2 per hour in Kenya for the reinforcement learning. So that process is still on, while all of us have adopted AI in our day-to-day lives. There's no denial about it. But as far as the full autonomy is concerned, I think we should be a bit cautious, especially with the customer impacting and the financials.
Especially
impacting.
given the previous discussion where we were talking about who bears the responsibility.
Yes,
Right.
that's also important, so who's going to be who will be hanged if something goes wrong. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Abhishek, here's an interesting question. So, personalization, personalization at scale is something that everybody's been talking about around AI for a while. But now, when you look at industry playbook, right? The question is, AI allows personalization at scale, but but a playbook needs certain guardrails, needs certain rigidity. So, how do you kind of balance the two, where the AI has guardrails, but the customer experience, is personalized as much as it can be?
Sure. Once again, very interesting question, and I'll actually bridge it to the previous one that I answered. How do you measure the impact? I think we missed highlighting that end of the day, who has to be the winner in this transaction to be able to assess the true impact is the customer. If you are able to generate some value for the customer by deploying AI, heuristic algorithm, anything, I think that's one of the ways you would measure the success metric. Now, the another part of it, this actually, how do you address the personalization? So, I'll take certain examples. Like I said, the shifting mental models of the consumers today. The customer today, if you go to Instagram, you don't actually search for the type of reels that you'd want to see. Basis your behavior signals, your preference signals, Instagram would figure out, hey, this is something that I feel are interesting you, I should actually show the similar kind of content. Same goes to, your Google search. If you're searching certain set of things and then basically your next search prompt, Google would figure out basis your past history, what is that you should be served with, right? Now this is for the industries where the customer already knows what they want. If we talk about the idea from our industry, majority of the customers are first time homeowners. They don't know what they are looking for. They don't have inspirations other than whatever they would have seen in a friend's place, on Instagram or Pinterest, right? So our personalization problem even starts before step where we would have to really tell them what to ask for, right? So there, what do we do exactly? We would ask, before we step into the personalization dimension, we would ask something which is very indicative that they are familiar answering for. Like instead of asking for what kind of a colors or what kind of an interior setting you'd want, I would have a proxy question. Something like, hey, what do you prefer doing on a Sunday morning at 9 a.m.? You know, what are the 3 things that you'd love to, out of these 3 things, would love to actually spend time with the kids and parents? Would you actually love playing golf? And would you actually also go about reading a book? That'll give me your preferences. Now, these sort of preferences, my AI engine would be able to bake in to the next step for personalization. If I know a bit about this, then I can get the next set of questions answered. Maybe these are the color palettes that may be a good fit for you, etc., etc. And then I'll actually keep on building a profile about you to eventually figure out what kind of designs I should be serving to you. Right, that's the personalization bit that I would look for. But at any point of a time, we need to understand, probably a bridge to the previous question as well, how much is that you would offer AI to work for versus how would you take to the human control, even if you talk about the personalization problem. My way of thinking about it is that you have to be drawing a hard line between what is okay to be probabilistic versus what needs to be deterministic. If it is 2 plus 2, you don't need to actually put across an AI to answer this question. If it is out of certain values, there could be 3 things that you may like, is something which AI can solve to great deals with certain set of guardrails. So that's how we look at the personalization problems, and we said about the playbook or a guardrails.
Interesting. Let's take this to you as well, Vivek. Personalization, personalized learning is a subject that almost every education reformist around the world has talked about, and AI actually it can do that, right? But in your playbook, how do you use AI native LMS, learning management system, to ensure that a professor in town A or a technology student in town B, they're using AI to improve academic outcomes, which is really the goal, without compromising academic rigor as well as cognitive process?
Yeah. Native AI systems today, like ours, I represent a company called D2L, which is a leader in LMS systems. Today they offer students things like personalized 24/7 learning assistant. For lack of a better analogy, it's like a chat GPT for students, but which learns only from the content provided by the institute. So there is very less chance of hallucinating and so on and so forth. Now imagine what this does. And these AI tutors are something that every student deserves, but very few were able to afford. Now it's almost an affordable reach now. Now imagine a student, the level of personalization that it's gone to now is a student could ask this AI assistant, I've got a test on applied mathematics next Wednesday. Can you draw up a study plan for me? What this AI assistant now does is, and this is not, can you write an essay for me or, very generic stuff like that. This is, now this AI system knows the history of this learner, knows the strong areas, weak areas, knows the rest of the schedule. So it crafts a study plan which says that, okay, you're weak in calculus, so we need to bring you up to speed for you to be able to do well in that particular test. But I know that you have another submission on Thursday for some other subject, so I'm going to work around that schedule and build this, study plan for you. That is a level to which now AI systems are able to personalize. And for faculty, it's brilliant as well, because for faculty, we say that we're not going to substitute you, we are going to help you. So it takes away a lot of the mundane tasks of a faculty, which use, like for example, creating tests, creating quizzes, used to take an inordinate amount of time earlier. Now a lot of that time is freed up, which the faculty can now devote to doing one-on-one personalized coaching, tutoring, mentoring, and so on and so forth. That's where the world is heading when it comes to personalized learning.
Very interesting. I think you cannot talk about a playbook, Achin, without really talking about the governance aspect of it, right? Collecting a lot of data, analyzing a lot of that data, plus talk about AI, putting guardrails around AI. From a playbook point of view, how would you go about replacing human oversight, which is as you talked about, is where agentic is really going, with deterministic guardrails for the AI that it should not go outside a certain predefined area of operation.
So again, we need to look at it from the, what Vivek mentioned, the native AI works totally differently from, if I talk about from the traditional enterprises perspective, where you have to introduce it bit by bit. So I always, take inspiration from this strangler fig pattern, which is where, the vine plant grows around a tree and then eventually replaces it. So I think to me, that approach works best. And if I talk it from the logistics perspective, like, dynamic route optimization, and of course, optimizing the fleet management for our shipment journey is, are some areas that we have picked up in terms of experimenting with this. As far as the governance is concerned, of course, as I said that, you need to have a core team with right representation in a traditional organization. It works differently for a product and services organization. Each organization has a different structure. But in a traditional enterprise, you've got to have the representation from all business functions, with of course, governance being one of the, the regular cadence item to be discussed through a committee or through a policy. I think very soon we'll reach a stage, all of us have these cybersecurity policies in our organization, but to start with, at least we should have this AI, ethics policy, which should govern, and eventually it has to evolve over a period of time. But to start with, and this is something that, we have been trying to, put in place. So at least put some basic guardrails and then continue to, refine it as you go along.
Yeah, actually, very nicely you said evolve, that pace at which the technology itself is evolving.
Yes.
The governance statement needs to,
Yeah.
evolve. I like to continue with this with Dr. Behr. Again, healthcare is a very, very, high stakes this thing. How do you sort of hardcode medical ethics and data privacy, patient data privacy into your AI systems?
See, in my last talk, what I have spoken to you, iOncology.ai, it has taken 9 months, 4 presentations to clear the ethical clearance. Because what is our data governance as well as what is the AI governance? That's supposed to be in place. We have defined the policy framework of the AI model. Then risk assessment, what is there? Third thing is that you have to define the risk classifications. What kind of risks and who has to take over these risks? Always we are guiding that man in the middle. It's supposed to come. One example, recently we are implemented RX docs. RX docs means when patient is in front of you, doctor is seated in front of you, in the screen, all the patient parameters and clinical information is available. The AI bots, it will give a preliminary report that this is the disease, it has happened to you. Doctor will verify it. Okay, then ensure it is correct or not. Whatever the bot has given, it has referred to the good research paper. It has brought out this one. It is assistive that what I am thinking, what AI thinking is how much matching it. Second part is that when the disease is identified and doctor is agreed this way to it. Next is that what treatment plan supposed to be. Again, he'll suggest that this is the treatment plan. Okay, and doctors will authenticate it. Third thing is that this treatment plan is very expensive and patient is not able to afford it. Then he can ask any other alternatives plans is there and he can inform. And this plan, where it has come, means similar kind of treatment has done where and whether it is published in authorized journal or not. Okay, this is the way we are going through it. But when the prescription will be generated, if he follow the any bots, automatically that bot's print out, it will come up, which date, this bot. And one thing you have to understand, nobody talk in this. How much data is required to train a model? Who can say? एक इंजीनियर बनने के लिए 8 सेमेस्टर 4 साल लगता है. Then he get a certificate as a certified engineer. एक डॉक्टर 5.5 साल लगता है. तो एक आपका एक मॉडल को आप ट्रेन करने के लिए कितना डाटा चाहिए? उसके लिए भी तो कुछ होना चाहिए ना, सर्टिफिकेशन कुछ. कोई सर्टिफिकेशन तो है नहीं. How much data is required? If I put, let's take 1,000 customer or patient data, and it is giving 82% and you have started using it. Is it acceptable? Or somebody has 5 lakhs. It is acceptable? Or somebody has 50 lakhs. It is acceptable? What amount? That is, you have to take care of that. In healthcare, if the complete patient's life cycle, without missing any data, 5,000, and if perform 70%, then you start using it on supervision. So this, and you are talking about the ethicals. These are the ethics which is the part of that. You have to override AI whenever it's required and take the responsibility who has done this one. Third thing is that how data of the patients, it will be confidential. There are 3 pillars there: confidential, security, confidential, and privacy. That has to be managed, and that parameter always will be managed because that data cannot be accessible by any other model to access it without permission from the ethical clearance. Thank you.
Thank you.
While the time is up, but just like to leave everyone with this, food for thought, that DPDP law has been notified. So, all of us have that responsibility to see the impact of that on the AI project as well.
Absolutely.
Eventually.
Thank you, gentlemen. Absolutely electrifying and delightful conversation. Thank you for your time here.